Hello and welcome to the Bob Reeves Brass live stream here on Facebook. So great to have you here wherever you are joining us from around the world. Be sure to show us some love in the comments section. We have a few minutes before we get going, so share this with your friends. Let them know we're hanging out with today's special guest, Earth, Wind, and Fire trumpeter Bobby Burns. Let's bring Bobby in here. Hey, Bobby, how's it going?
Hey, not too bad.
Good to
Making the best of it.
good to see you. Staying safe, staying healthy.
And inside.
And inside. Well, it's so great to have you here. We'll talk trumpet. We got folks checking in already from around the world. We got Paul checking in from the United Kingdom. A little late there, but good evening, Paul. Good to see you on here. So be sure to ask your questions in the comments section, and we have Bobby Burns here probably for the next 45 minutes or so. So have at it. We'll start off first with a few questions that came in before on Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. The first one, Bobby, is about your time with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you have any particular favorite places to play with them when you're on tour?
Uh, Red Rocks.
Red Rocks.
Red Rocks is beautiful. I mean, it's out there in the nature. The amphitheater is built by God. And it's just a beautiful setting. It's probably my favorite one right now. Wolf Trap. We did Madison Square Garden, but I still think just overall venue probably Red Rock.
Just something special about being outside and
yeah. It's such a beautiful natural, and the acoustics are amazing there.
Really, you think?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we played there probably a dozen times. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to take a trip next time you guys start touring again.
You're chicken.
So I remember seeing you. I've seen you a couple times at the Greek Theater, which is a beautiful place outside, but not quite Red Rocks.
The Greek was also very nice. Also, I mean the Greek and also where the L.A. Oh doggone it! I can't think of the other name of the park. Yeah, but yeah,
out here in L.A.
Huh?
Out here in L.A.
Yeah.
Is that the Ford Amphitheater?
No, is it the Ford Amphitheater? What it's called now?
Yeah, I think so.
Owns it.
Or used to be. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Uh, well, cool. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, people of Norway checking in. Man, so we got folks watching around the world. Show some love in the comments. We're here with Bobby Burns Jr., trumpet player from Earth, Wind, and Fire, and a bunch of other folks that in the description we have your bio. Oh man, so we're getting a particular one about Earth, Wind, and Fire. Paul is asking September. Fast single tongue or double tongue? What's the secret?
That comes up a lot. Actually, sometimes I single tongue it, sometimes I double tongue it. It's funny, when I came on the band, I noticed that Reggie and Gary were pronouncing it sort of not quite like the record, a little bit different, And Reggie one day looked over at me and said, "Bobby," he says, "You double tonguing that?" In his deep voice, baritone voice. I said, "Yeah." He said, "It don't quite swing as well." And it was right, as all of you trumpet players know, it's right in that space where it's like too slow to double tongue and too fast to almost single tongue. So, but it's funny, listen to Reggie play it over and over and over, and after a while, I turned around one day, man, I'm single tonguing it. Just when listen to him do it all the time.
Interesting. So single tongue, huh?
Single tongue, yeah.
Now,
but I've actually worked on the lick both ways, just in case things don't feel good. I do it sometimes, and I'm not aware of which one I do sometimes. It just depends on how I feel.
Now we've got Netherlands checking in, Norway, as I mentioned, Canada, Vancouver checking in. So let us know in the comments where you're viewing from. This is so great way to spend the afternoon or morning if you're in Japan or Australia.
Right.
And now, Bobby, you talked about this on the podcast on the other side of the bell, but can you talk about how you joined the band? Because that's a great story.
Okay. How it started was basically the Earth, Wind, and Fire they were going to go do the Grammys with the Black Eyed Peas in 2004. Ray Brown had come down with Bell's palsy, and of course he couldn't play. And so in November of 2003, I got a call, and basically Ray said, "Bobby, can you come in and we're going to do an overdub put it on a hard drive. They're hoping my chops come back, but I don't think it's going to happen. But we want to do this thing with the Black Eyed Peas on Grammys, and we need to lay the trumpet part down. So I got called to do that. And at the end of that session, I remember him telling me, he says, "You're probably going to get a call. They're looking at a few guys who," he said, "I'm going to have to step down, and they're going to look at a few guys, and you're probably one of them." So sure enough, March of the next year of 2004, I did get a call after the 1st of March. So,
yeah, so 16 years.
Yeah, 16 years, man.
Have you counted how many performances you've done with them?
God, no, I have not. But somebody said it's got to be in the thousands now.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I don't know. I imagine if we do 80 or 90 average in a year over 16 years, it's got to be somewhere in there.
Yeah.
In the first few years, we from 2000, I joined in 2004 to 2006. Man, we were out, 200 days a year.
Yeah, you guys are doing your own stuff, and you're also touring with Chicago, right? Around.
Yeah, we did three or four tours with Chicago. We went out in 2004, 2005, I think 2010 and 13, somewhere in there. A lot of fun.
I bet. I was fortunate. One of the ones I saw you at the Greek was that combined concert, and man, as a horn player, horn section, hearing all of those greats up there and Lee Loughnane, wow, it was a lot of fun.
The beauty about that one, you got a chance to hear, because all 6 horns were up there, so we were all playing different parts. So we didn't have to condense it down that much. So it was a great event, man. I keep hoping it would happen again.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah.
All right, we got Bobby Burns here, trumpet player with Earth, Wind and Fire and tons of other stuff. Graduate of Indiana University and student of Bill Adam, which we'll talk about here at some point. Next question comes in from Lewis Thompson. This is a kind of a technical question. He's playing, tends to play sharper as he ascends on the trumpet. He's using a 3C. Any advice on how to get a darker, fluffier sound and pitch issues as you're going up?
Well, the deeper mouthpieces that you're going to tend to go, that's the nature of what happens. The pitch, the partials get closer together. You have to come into and talk to John about the backboard, and Bob, that's what they do. So, what you're experiencing is not nothing the rest of us don't experience. Sometimes you have to tune wherever you're playing. You got to set your tuning slide or position about where you're at, and you just have to kind of adjust. But if you're up in the upper register, I would imagine 3C is a little deep, So I like keeping the same rim, but I definitely adjust the back, the cup and underparts to whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah. So speaking of equipment, we have a couple questions now, Greg and Andrew. So do you want to get into your what your setup is?
Sure.
So we start with the horns, right?
Okay. Well, the horn that I play the gig with, Earth, Wind and Fire. Most of the work I do is Shire's BLW. It's kind of a lightweight. I guess probably like a 37 lightweight. It's a really good horn. Reggie and I are also playing a Shire, and I use Bob's Reeves mouthpiece. I'm not sure the size on it though right now. It just says Bobby. What does it say?
We got the BB model. We have there's the one you use for the show, which I think is a little shallower.
Yeah, it is. It's a little shallower.
And then more of a classical one that I think you blow routine on, and
and we're also in the process of fooling around with another one. I got time to mess around with a couple other things now, so
changing the cup shape up a little bit. So
yeah.
So and if anyone watching has some more wants to get more into it in terms of backboards and things like that, give us a call at the shop or send us an email, and we'll get more geeky about. I think you're using the 692S on one of them, and then but now we're messing with a V shape. We're going to an SV cup.
Exactly.
So
right.
And
And
then
I'm liking that V shape. I mean, I can it's really got some crazy mad sizzle at the top of the horn, and I can play down a low F sharp very comfortably.
well,
So
cool. Yeah, we'll have to get you back in here and hear it.
I'll be back in there soon.
Yeah. Well, of course, the true test is when you can actually get back out on the road and play it in the band. So
But I do run I run the show now and then. I got a
really,
recording show, so I'll play it. I played it with the show actually, in a recording of it. I ran it last week,
oh,
and this is really working. So
awesome, awesome. And actually, that was our next question was about what you're doing during the shutdown. Obviously, you guys aren't on the road, so what are you doing to keep yourself in shape and staying inspired?
well, I'm practicing a fair amount. I like we're trying different mouthpieces out. I have time to do that now, so it's things that I couldn't do while I was on the road. I can actually take time to do. Working on some things that irritated me about my playing, or things that I kind of work out, and I can do it now. You know, so and basically I'm just practicing. We've done a Earth, Wind, and Fire. We put together a collage. I'm sure you've seen a lot of musicians do that sort of collage setting for COVID Canada, and it may air here. I'm not sure if it may have aired here, but that's about it, really. Just kind of stay in shape, you know. Feel like I'm back in college again, practicing.
Got all day to practice.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah, so Paul's asking about is he right in thinking you studied with Bill Adam, which is yes, you did. Can you talk about that process? I mean, that was one of the most inspirational stories I think we've had on the podcast. Can you talk about how you got to study with Mr. Adam?
Well, my band director from junior high was a graduate of actually a graduate of IU, and he encouraged me to go to IU because he said they had a great brass department. He didn't tell me who to study with exactly, but he said go there. They have a very fine brass department, very fine music school. So I got accepted to university, but not into the music department. So basically, what kind of steered me that way? I was listening. There was three brass choirs. Each there were three trumpet instructors at the school: Bill Adam, Charlie Gorham, and Louis Davison, and they all had a brass choir. And around Christmas time, all the brass choirs would play in the forum between the annex building and the old building. There were two buildings that were finally put together. And I heard, Charlie Gorham's brass choir, Louis Davison. Actually, I heard Louis Davison's students. I don't think he didn't have a choir at that particular time. And there was such a unique sound that came out of the not only the trumpet section, it was Bill Adams' approach. And I went, that is the sound that I'm after. The trumpets were roaring, just beautiful sound. But he was able to pass it on just to any brass instrument. And so basically that steered me toward Adam, but he didn't let me in the studio right away because he had an overload. He had 30 students, and he had no room for anybody else. And there were players who were way better than me who were in front of the line, but I pestered him. I had to I'd come to Mr. Adams' door every couple of days, knock on it. Mr. Adam, I really want to study with you. Can you let me study with you? Oh, Bob Burns, why don't you come back next semester? We'll talk about it. I came back next week. I knocked on his door. I find all kinds of crazy questions to ask. They were relevant to the horn. So he would look at me and go, Bob Burns, you again. And I just pestered the man to death. And he agreed to take me as a student. And so I was there a couple years before I actually got into his studio.
Amazing. And you weren't originally a performance major, correct?
No, I was an Well, I went there to become an education ed major. So that was that. But I couldn't. Even after I got into the music department, I got accepted into the music department, but I ended up graduating as a performance major later down the road once I was accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an amazing story. You think, and then here you are today playing and doing the thing. It's like, so inspirational. And that's the kind of persistence that, gets you to success, I think, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we are here with Bobby Burns, telling some great stories, talking about the trumpet. Show us some love in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I saw Maine checking in. That's one of the few states. Have you ever performed in Maine? I don't.
Yeah, we've been to Maine.
You've been to Maine.
We've been to Maine. I can't think of where now, but I remember going there. I think we've only been there once or twice.
Amazing. Serbia checking in. Awesome.
I've been there.
Andrea, sorry if I'm getting your name wrong. I think it's Andrea. He's checking in from Serbia. He wants to know, what's your practice routine on the day of a hard gig, which was probably every day with Earth, Wind, and Fire, I would think.
Yeah.
And what do you? How much do you get to practice when you're out on tour?
Well, I try to before the show. I try to get an hour and 45 to an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes about a warm up, and I try to do that. Like if the show's, of course, around 7 or 8, I'll try to find somewhere and start playing around 4ish, 5ish, and I try to finish an hour before the show, regardless of what it is I'm doing. I try to finish about an hour before the show. That's during the show days, which we typically, when we're on the road, we have about 3 to 4 gigs a week. And on the off day, I'll play as much as I can, unless I'm beat up or extremely tired. And most of that's just from the road itself. But I try to get a couple hours in on the days that are off.
And is that mostly like maintenance stuff? I mean, is it what kind of stuff are you practicing?
It's the same sort of stuff I would practice every day. It's more of a routine just to keep me flexible and keep me so I'm not stiff or so I can feel like I can do something else also, it's funny how your chops get set for one gig and it knows exactly what it's got to do, but then you go on something else and you find like, wow, I'm tired. So I try to practice just a variety of stuff. I mean, I go through a lot of the Adams routine, and just try to play etudes. I take Charlie book out there with me, Brant, some other stuff, and just lyrical studies, and basically just try to stay in shape.
Now, when you're not on the road, are you still freelance around LA? What kind of stuff do you do in town to stay in shape?
Normally, when I come back, I'll pick up some sessions here. I get called to a number of big bands and other R&B bands too, but mostly big band rehearsals, which I take because it gives me a chance to read again, which I don't get a chance to do when I'm on the road. So I usually jump at any chance to sit in on a rehearsal as much as possible.
Yeah. Now, how much does the set change up when you guys are touring?
It doesn't change. Well, from tour to tour, it changes. Mm-hmm. But once we're on tour, it's fairly set. And Philip can get bored, and he'll change things around a little bit. But once we go out on a tour, it's pretty much set for that tour. Then, like we were going to go out this year, we're going to go to the production rehearsal. I don't know what was going to change, but I'm sure it's going to change. I couldn't tell because it never happened. But definitely, it can change. And Philip may change the order, or it can change also if we're doing a corporate gig, a private gig, as opposed to a regular concert.
And what about rehearsals? Like before a tour, how much are you guys hitting it before you're playing?
That kind of depends. The longest production rehearsal we did is when we went out with Chicago. The first year we went out, we actually did about a month, and they broke it down into the horns would go into all 6 of the horns would go in into a room, and we'd work out the parts, trying to memorize, because we had to memorize some of the Chicago stuff. They had to memorize some of the Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff. So we went through these production rehearsals. Then we had to go through the whole choreography thing so we wouldn't run over each other on the stage, So when we went out with Chicago, it can vary from 4 or 5 days to maybe a week or so.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. We are here live with Bobby Burns Jr., Earth, Wind, and Fire, Bill Adams student. I mean, and you, wait, Macy Gray, right? You played with Macy before you went
Yeah,
out on,
great.
did a tour with her for what, a year or so?
About a year, a little less than a year.
Yeah, what was that like? I mean, she's a great artist.
She was, of course, she has some issues, but she was a sweet lady to work for, man. She took care of the guys. She was an interesting person, man. She didn't know a lot about music. It's funny, she didn't know much about music, but she understood form. She understood how every performance on stage with her was different. She gauged a lot of her performance on crowd response, and she was able to figure out exactly what was going on. And you had to watch her because she had a way of, but she always let you know what was going on. She had a way of letting us know. So it was like a big live animal on stage. It was different from day to day. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, we got Brian checking in from Indianapolis. He says, "Looking good, young fella."
Brian. Brian who?
Brian Hoover, good buddy.
I know Brian.
Yeah,
Hoover.
how's it going, Brian? Good to see you virtually. Yeah, I got some Adam students. Could you talk a little bit more about your studies with Mr. Adam? Like, what were lessons like with him, and is there anything in particular he worked with you on?
Adam was always trying to get you to get your breath to play very relaxed, and he was always approached the horn from being able to have a very oral concept or mental concept of the sound. That was where he didn't tell you much what physically was going on, if anything. So he's always approached it from, if you have a good mental image of the sound, that the physical would follow behind that. It has to follow behind it. If you don't have a good concept of the sound, then your body will form to whatever your brain is thinking. So the better image of the sound, the more it was in your soul and in your whole body and your mind. Typically, the rest would just follow behind it. And it was getting that confidence that divorce yourself from the physical part of it and embrace the more mental part of the playing that Adam really, really talked about.
Yeah, and we've been fortunate. We've already had a few former Adam students. I guess you're never a former Adam student. Everyone's still a student of Mr. Adam.
Yeah.
So partly is you guys are just so easy to get a hold of, and I mean, it's been amazing. We've had Jerry Hay on here. We've had Charlie Davis. So we've had a lot of Adam students already on the Q&As and also on the podcast. So for those of you out there that are interested in the teachings of Mr. Adam, there's a lot of you guys out there talking about it on the podcast, on these Q&As that are all posted on our Facebook page and on YouTube. So for those of you asking about Bill Adam and his legacy and his teaching style, check those out.
And most of his students will avail themselves to talk. It was a way he kind of had us practicing together, and towards there was always a camaraderie among the students. Mm-hmm. And he really talked about being a good human being, a decent person. And so I think and we embrace that, and so I think most Adam students are want to share that.
Yeah, and that's been my experience. Again, like everyone I've asked, hey, Bobby, I'm doing a Q&A. Do you want to do it? Sure. Anytime. Jerry, hey, sure. Anytime. Like you guys are the easiest to get a hold of, and it shows. I mean, you guys are living the legacy, so it's great to keep that going. And then speaking of which, I want to do a quick plug here for our friend Dr. Carl Sievers. Every summer he puts on with other Adam students the William Adam Trumpet Festival that it's been in Oklahoma. Last year it was out in Boone, North Carolina. Of course, this year they had to cancel it. It was supposed to be up in John Harbaugh's territory, up in Central Washington University, and unfortunately that had to be canceled. But they are planning a virtual Adam Fest. So it hasn't been completely announced. So hopefully I don't get in trouble for jumping the gun a little bit. But since we have so many folks watching, you'll want to keep an eye out online because they are Dr. Sievers and a bunch of the guys are getting something together here pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that for those of you watching. I think, Bobby, you're a part of that too. I think you're...
I probably will be.
Not to put you on the spot.
Citrus College. We had one at Citrus College.
Yeah.
And I had a gig. Earth, Wind, and Fire was playing that night, that day, that night, I believe. I think we had a gig was it the Hollywood Bowl, I believe.
Yeah, That's right. Yeah.
So I couldn't, I couldn't stay.
Mhm.
But anyway, I want to be part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So stay tuned for more details on that. And hopefully I didn't get everyone in trouble.
Yeah.
That's not live. It's not on the internet or anything. Okay, so we got a lot of questions rolling in, so I'll get back to my job here. Sorry. For those of you watching, we have Bobby Burns here hanging out here this afternoon talking trumpet. Bob Barnett's checking in, wants to know, do you have a favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire tune to play?
Favorite? I like the ballads actually. That's the Way of the World is one of my favorites. Uh, Let Your Feelings Show is probably one of my favorites. Also, I like Jupiter. Um, God, man, it's a great library. That's what makes it fun to play. So just almost every tune is a great tune. So yeah.
Well, so now putting you on the spot, do you have a least favorite one to play, or one? Let's put it this way: one like that's at the end of the set that you start sweating if you see it.
Well, we tend to end with man, which tune we In the Stone. I like In the Stone. I just don't like it on the end. But we typically end on with that one and then the outtake of it while they're introducing the three principles. We're vamping on one of the hardest section of the tunes, and we can vamp for 5-6 minutes, and so you're already tired because you played 120 minutes or more, so you're vamping on one of the hardest sections of the song when you're pretty fatigued. So, but least favorite, I can't really say. They're it depends on when they come in the set sometimes.
That's the thing. I appreciate your honesty too. It's nice to know that you're mortal. Who are your favorite trumpet players? This comes from Shuichi Bunden. He's a good customer in front of ours. Great to see you watching, Shuichi. Hope you're doing well. He wants to know who your favorite trumpet players are to listen to while you were growing up.
When I was growing up? Oh, wow. I thought I was going to be a classical trumpet player for a while. So Maurice Andre, Timothy Dochester, Adolf Hersov, of course, probably, I love the way Maynard and Doc Severinsen and, there's so many, but those are probably off the top of my head, just what I remember hearing as a kid, that really kind of inspired me to play,
Yeah,
So.
Great examples. Harry is checking in. So do you guys, let's see if you can answer this or not. Do you guys have running tracks when you're doing the show?
There's a hard drive, but it's usually like some of the string parts or some of the toys, like the bells and whistles. So there are no horns or nothing no guitars, nothing on there. But it's maybe like bird sounds or more that type of stuff. There's a sequencer on some of the things, but it's more just a groove. But there's as far as instruments, no.
Amazing, and you're dancing around, and I mean, like,
yeah,
stuff. You guys put on a show. It's amazing. It's yeah, can't wait till you guys are out touring again and doing.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I bet doing the thing. I mean, any word yet about when you guys can start going?
No, I've heard nothing. I think, unfortunately, I think music's going live music's probably be one of the last things that get opened up. So who knows at this? I heard everything from this year was pushed into 21. So hopefully in 2021 we're out.
You get back to the road. Man.
Yeah.
Now we talked about instruments a little bit before, so those of you who are asking about instruments, you can rewind, or this will be posted on our Facebook afterwards. You did. Can we talk about Tony Scodwell a little bit? Because there was a while you were playing on Scodwell horns.
Yeah, I did.
Can you talk about when you were using those and what it was like working with Tony?
Tony was great to work for, and man, he's building. Fine trumpet, man. Very fine trumpet. The one that I remember at the end, I think it was called the Boston, is the one I had. But I had several of his, and man, they are very fine horns. Tony was modern day Renaissance guy. He's kind of does a little bit of everything, but the cat was building a hell of a trumpet, man. You know, I played him for about 4 or 5 years, I think,
Yeah.
if not more.
Yeah. And yeah, killer lead player. I mean, killer trumpet player too. I mean, he's one of those guys.
Yeah. Very,
Renaissance man.
very fine trumpet
Yeah.
player, man.
Yeah. We are here live with Bobby Burns. If you're just joining us, a couple notes. First of all, this will be posted afterwards. So if you missed any of our live Q&A, feel free to rewind and share this with your friends. It'll also be posted on YouTube as well. So for your friends or students that aren't on social media, that'll be easy to access after that up on YouTube. Let us know where you're viewing from. I mean, I'm fortunate. We can make stuff here at the shop, so I'm out of the house, but we're all stuck at home, so let us know. It's a great way to connect here online. So let us know where you're watching from. We'll be here for probably another 15 minutes or so. So if you have any questions for Bobby Burns, answer them here in the comments, and I'll ask them live here on our Q&A session. Oh, man, we got Brazil checking in. Eric has a question. Hey, Bobby, the tempos on some of those tunes are ridiculous.
One specific he's talking about?
Yeah. So how do you prepare for something like that?
Like is he specific? Is he which song is he talking about? He's talking about anything?
I don't know. Hey, Eric, if you're watching live in Brazil, and then also live in Brazil, I guess, is that one of your albums or one of the DVDs?
They did one down there, but we haven't done that album as a performance
as a release. Interesting. So well, maybe that's what he's referencing. So he's watching from Wisconsin, so not quite as exotic as, but Wisconsin's still nice up there. So well, let's just put it generically then. Like some of the tunes you are playing, the tempos are crazy or you're tonguing. So what does your preparation look like when you're working up with those tunes?
Well, of course, you slowed everything down and to work the tempos up, but a lot of it I just started adding a lot of tonguing stuff in my warm up, and that trying to get my pronunciation as relaxed as possible. So maybe instead of like all those like the Clark technical exercises, I'd always single tongue them. I mean, slur them and then single tongue them, and just try to keep the pronunciation on the air. The sound right on top of the air, and once you get the muscling it, you're in trouble. So I try to keep everything just floating on top of the air, on top of the breath.
So that's something you work out and you're practicing, and that was also kind of relates to another question about how do you pace yourself. So is that the similar kind of thing
on the show? You're talking about for the show?
Yeah.
There ain't no pacing yourself. No, I mean, okay. The first if we're off for a couple of weeks. When I go out, I definitely have to pace myself. So for about 3 or 4 performances, after that first week, I'm usually good, and I don't have to pace myself. But up until about the 3 or 4, I definitely have to pace myself. And you just have to be aware of, you try not to warm up. Be careful how you warm up, how I warm up, not to overdo it. And you got to find that balancing point of where I'm warmed up, but not cold, but not too well, I've worn myself out. That's why I like to stop an hour or so before the show, and maybe 5 or 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes before the show, I play a few exercises again to get going. But yeah, I definitely have to pace myself a little bit on the. I can't, when you hear me playing, I'm playing at 90 to 100%. I mean, I'm playing fairly full, so I'm backing off somewhat. Maybe the first couple 3 shows a little bit on the.
Yeah, Eric was checking back in. It's an album called Live in Rio. So does that ring a bell?
That was done before I came on the band.
That was before you.
Yeah, so I can't really dress much on that.
Well, you should take credit, man. Yeah, you can. That's your chance.
It'll be fair.
Take credit for someone else's work. So there's your answer, Eric. It was pre-Bobby's time, but I mean, having heard you play a few times, I mean, you're killing it on the show. I mean, to think that those guys are doing it in the studio and you have to do it nightly, And also while you're doing choreography and stuff, I mean, it's incredible to watch.
Really push you.
Yeah. Man, so we got a couple students checking in, Bobby. Ben's checking in. Ben Russell, thanks for all the private lessons back in the 90s.
That was one of my students.
Shout out from Lancaster, California, our old stomping grounds.
Yeah, Ben, I think he lives up there in Oregon. I mean, Idaho, I believe.
Yeah. Illinois checking in. Let us know where you're watching. Hi from Memphis. Oh, man, David. Bobby is one of the reasons I play trumpet and do this music thing. Hearing what Bobby does is always inspiring. Thank you. So you got some fans out there, Bobby.
All right, appreciate that.
Thank you, David. A beautiful comment. Let us know where you're watching from. And, of course, we're here for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions for Bobby Burns, ask away in the comments, and we'll answer. We will. Bobby will answer them here live. I'll just have the difficult job of asking them. So, Bobby, can we talk a little bit more about the Adam routine? Because, and we've talked about this before with other folks, like the routine is kind of a misnomer. I mean, obviously, there's some common exercises that just about every trumpet player plays, but what specifically kind of things do you do?
Well, I'm using Adam's his methodology, to approach the horn. I may have changed some of the order of the routine, and the order changed from time to. He actually cultivated the routine for almost every student in a way. So the exercises were not anything special other than the way he had you approach him. But I probably think that one of the more, he didn't like you buzzing the mouthpiece. He thought that created isometric tension, and that's not the way he approached it. So a lot of trumpet players say, "Do you buzz the mouthpiece?" I says, "No, I don't buzz the mouthpiece. I blow the lead pipe." And that was the way I started out playing. Adam had us started playing. The first thing he'd do is have us blow through the lead pipe, and that was new to me because prior to then I was trying to buzz the mouthpiece. There's many ways of playing a horn, so this is the way Adam had us approach it. So, and they're great players that play many different ways, but he was trying to get you to play very relaxed and get the. So I think and actually found out that your lips don't necessarily buzz because you're making them buzz. They buzz because of the standing wave that's set up in the lead pipe. So once you find that out, it's like, well, why force your chops to buzz? Why you don't want to add any extra other step to it if you can get around it? It's already hard enough. So why make it harder? But like I said, there are many ways of playing, and each person has to find that way that works for them.
So, and then your version, if you will, of the Adam method, I mean, it's just typical like the Schlossbergs and the long tones, things like that.
I started out with the pipe, and then I'll play, the long tones. We usually start in the middle of the horn, a G, and kind of expand halfway, sort of like a V, half step down, half step up, and you can proceed in that order for a while, and what you go up to is however you feel, what's comfortable. Then I jump from there. I jump over to, what do I do? A couple things out of the Schlossberg book. I like to do, I think it's number 11, 11 and 11A. Then from there I go to some of the Clark technical exercises. I change them around a little bit. Sometimes I do 2, sometimes I do 1, sometimes I do both of them. And then I'll jump over into do some things out of the Schlossberg book. And when I was out with Chicago, Lee turned me on to this Charles Colin exercise, a lot of Charles Colin stuff, and I started adding those to my practice. And he started adding some of the Schlossberg to his routine. So,
What fun. Great sharing of ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, him and I would get together. He would I would take him through the routine, and we would kind of, and he would take me through some of the stuff that he was doing. Oh. So we did try to practice together.
What fun. And I still need to get him on here. He called and he said he was going to do an interview, and then we never crossed paths. So I'll have to give him a call here because
good guy, man.
I love it. Great player. I mean,
stay in touch.
And there was while we were talking about routine, are you familiar at all with the Caruso stuff? Do you ever do any of that?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I know a lot of the Caruso stuff is a fair amount of isometrics, if I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it, it's not that we don't use it. We use it sometimes, like the long line Maggio, but not into just building the in the body or in the routine of the trumpet. Not It's something we may add later on at the end of for a while, like it's almost like a warm down in some respects. But as far as no, we don't. Not that I know. Maybe some of the other guys might have used Caruso, but Adam didn't. Not while I was there.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the atom as you've approached was all sound. You
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah,
do an exercise just for this.
no,
Yeah,
no, not at all.
yeah. Hey, we have Australia waking up. So
Yeah,
on one side of the globe, we have folks getting ready for bed over in the UK and the Scandinavia and Europe, and then we got Ralph and Matt, great guys, and they're checking in from Sydney, so they say good eye.
good day, mate.
Good eye. And you guys have toured down there, right? You've done.
Yeah, we've gone Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what fun. Ben Russell has a question for you. On a gig, who are you listening to when you're trying to lock in your intonation?
We're listening to each other. I mean, we rarely tune up. I mean, because the pitch is going to change. So we're just kind of Reggie and I. A lot of times we'll have a little tuner. Sometimes I'll clip it to the bell initially at the beginning, especially if we're playing outside and it's hot, or if extreme cold. I'll clip it on, and once I get kind of acclimated, I'll pull it off. And put it on, throw it on, usually on the side. But we're kind of listening to each other because you got to listen to each other. You got to listen to each other as a section. And so we're taking, I'm also listening to the rhythm section, trying to make sure, because their pitch slides too when according to the weather conditions. So you got to kind of pay attention,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah, and sometimes you guys are inside, sometimes you're outside. Red
Yeah.
Rocks.
Yeah, during the summertime, we're outside 90% of the gig. So, you just got to, we're listening to each other.
And on your gig, you have you have a clip-on mic, right? And then
Yes.
and in ears, I'm assuming.
Yeah. In here.
You
Yeah.
know what mic do you use?
Oh, we just changed. It was a Shure. I don't know the model. I think it's Shure.
Hmm.
I've been asked that question before, and I said I'm going to write it down. I'll make a note of it.
Okay.
But there are Shure. We just got, actually, the last tour we were out, we got new mics.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Can we talk a little bit? Yeah. Would you ever run into chop problems when you're on the road if you're having a bad day, something like that?
I mean, yeah, I've gotten sometimes get a little bruised. Yeah, I wouldn't say problems. I've gotten sore. The only time I had chop problems, when we were in Germany, we were in the locker room, and I turned to go into I thought was another room, and I walked into a glass wall,
Man.
and so I bruised my chops,
Whoa.
and it knocked me out. I fell back onto the chair, and I was out for a minute.
Wow.
So that was right before a show.
Man.
And that time I had a solo. I was supposed to solo on something, and I put the harmony mute in, and just to kind of play easy, because that was as much of the chop problems I had then.
So accidental, not
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But mostly, I'm prepared for the most part, so I don't really run into much chop problem other than being sore sometimes or being a little tight, and that's just, you have to warm up easy. If I'm swollen, I'll take a Advil at night or a Aleve or something at night before I go to bed.
Now, also, when you guys are normally out on the road a lot, I mean, it's the physical demands of traveling, like the jet lag and hotel food, things like that. How do you keep yourself physically in shape and, up for the gig?
Well, I try to work out 3 or 4 days a week, regardless. So most of the hotels have some gym. I'll go there. I've checked in some gyms. I'm sort of into CrossFit or into CrossFit style workouts. I'll go for runs. So I just find a way to stay in shape. You have to on the road, otherwise you turn into a big blob. So usually there's a gym somewhere, and I will make time.
That's it. Making the time.
Making it.
Yeah, we got a lot of Maine checking in. Mark, they love funky tight horns up in Maine too. So yeah,
Right.
we got a big listener base, and I mean that could be half of Maine. Two guys up there,
Oh.
as you say, from California with zillions of people. We have time for just another question or two. So if you have a question for Bobby Burns, we are here live. Ask it down in the comments section, and we will ask Bobby here. So great for Bobby to join us. I mean, it's difficult times for everybody. We're not on the road. We're not able to get out of our house and hear live music. So the least we could do to keep things inspired is to do things like this. So if you have a question for Bobby, ask it down in the comments. Bobby, if you wouldn't mind talking about this, and this is what you mentioned on the podcast as well, and you almost didn't play trumpet, correct?
Yeah, actually, I started out in art.
Really?
Yeah, I started out, and my mom never thought I'd play trumpet of all things. 'Cause I was born with a lot of congestion. I had asthma as a kid, so if I hadn't started swimming, I probably never would have played trumpet because the wind capacity at all. So then I actually quit for a while once I got to LA for about 3 months. So it's kind of So
it was for those of you watching, check out Bobby's podcast episode on the other side of the bell, because I remember we recorded the episode, and then we walked out the door and you said, yeah, John, I almost wasn't a trumpet player. I mean, it was so inspiring, and the number of folks that hear you play with Earth, Wind and Fire and all the other stuff you've done, to find out that I mean the trumpet wasn't handed to you, like you weren't born a trumpet player, and all of these things
that became very, very difficult for me. I'm not a natural player at all.
Yeah,
I couldn't even get anything out the horn for a while. I started out on baritone actually.
Yeah. And I mean, all of those stories, the perseverance is really inspiring, and especially in these times, it's a great time to share those stories because it's difficult for a lot of people. And so yeah, it's amazing that you ended up where you are. It's not amazing because it's your perseverance, just like going back to Mr. Adam. Hey, what about this? What about that? Knocking on his door. I mean, it's amazing. So thank you for all that inspiration, Bobby. Andy's asking, do you have any funny road stories that you can tell on the internet, I suppose?
I think the one that I get the biggest chuckles out of is we had this bus driver. I'm not gonna mention his name right now because I don't want to get him in trouble. But I kept asking him, I want to drive the bus because I would sit up there with him at night. I mean, literally a couple seasons gone by, and I remember it was maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. We pulled into a truck stop. He said, "Bobby, you want to drive the bus?" I said, "Yeah, man, I want to drive the bus." He said, "You're not scared?" I said, "No, man, let me drive the bus." He said, "Okay, I'll let you drive it to the end of the driveway, and then I'll take over." I said, "Okay." So he's adjusts the seat for me. I take off. I'm driving. We get to the end of the driveway. I just keep right on going. Down about, literally, I drove about 80 miles. He said, "You're comfortable with it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "There's a door that divides the bus portion from the passenger part." I said, "Walk back there and say hi to the guys while I'm driving." So I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden I hear, "Oh, what the? Who's driving the bus?" And they come up there, "Oh, Bobby's driving the bus. He's going to kill us. Oh, my God." And I'm driving down the freeway.
I thought it was on cruise control.
And I told Mark, I said, "When you walk back there, tell him you're driving by the Force." It was hilarious because all of a sudden it got dropped dead quiet when he walked to the back, like.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, we got Oslo checking in. Kettle, good to see you, buddy. Richie from San Diego checking in. Eric has another question. Eric, not from Brazil. Eric from Wisconsin. Any tips on endurance, especially when there's no steady gigs right now? Good question.
What I'm doing is I play a lot. I don't play. I'll play an hour or two, hour and a half, hour, 20 minutes, come back, take time off the horn, come back and play another hour. And so I think I don't beat myself up in one session, but I will play a couple, 3 long sessions. And I noticed that my endurance gets better that way. So some people say, well, keep playing once you reach exhaustion. I said, no, because once you play past when you're exhausted, you're going to start You're going to start enhancing bad habits that you have, and so you're going to teach yourself to play wrong very well. And so I like to break it up and be fresh. And I figure if you play over a couple, 3 long sessions or 2 long sessions, your endurance will get better in itself. And keep flipping what you're doing. Don't do the same routine. You have to flip it, and the things that you play. You got to keep flipping things because your body is muscle memory, a lot of it, and it will naturally know what you're doing. So the way to increase your endurance is to kind of keep changing things around, but practice a lot.
Practice a lot. Great advice. Great advice. Some business. Young player wants to come to LA and start making it as a freelancer. What's your advice?
Ooh.
How do you get started? What do you need to know?
Well, the best thing is to be able to use social media right now. That's probably that. When I came out, there was rehearsals at the Union. I went down there and just meet as many players as you can. Get your name out there. But at that time, we didn't have Facebook and all the other medias. So basically, you took your card, you went around, you called people up. Hey, look, I'm in town, blah, blah, blah. I want you to call me. This is what I do. And for me, the Union was a big help for me. Also, if you have students that are out here or students who you went to school with that have moved out here, stay in touch with them.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I mean, from Indiana, there's a lot of folks out here. Did you reach out to them when you moved to LA?
Yeah, I did, actually. Yes, I sure did. Jerry was one of my first contacts, actually. Jerry was one that encouraged me to come out here. And right away I met Charlie, and Charlie Davis and I, we became friends. Larry Hall, I used to hang out and still today we do, So, and one thing led to another. Try to sit in and go to as many rehearsals as you get called to do. Mm-hmm. That's the only way that they're going to hear you.
And practice. Practice a lot.
We're not running each other at the Union.
Yeah, and could you? I mean, because a lot of folks. I mean, some countries, like I know in Australia, they don't even have the musicians union. So, can you talk a little bit about what the union, like when you say go down into the union and play, like what is that? What are the bands there, and how do you get involved with them?
Well, there are a lot of when I came out here, there were just rehearsal. There were a number of rehearsal bands, and sometimes somebody wouldn't show up, and so you're there, and right away you're going to meet 17 guys and the leader and the 4 trumpets. So, hey man, give me a card. And one thing, if you do this over and over enough, people start to know who you are. Call people up. Don't just give me a card. Follow it up with a phone call. Hello, and go out and hear music. When you hear people play afterwards, try to make time to go up and have a conversation with them.
Great advice. Great advice. We are here live. We have time probably for one more question, and then we'll wrap up here. But what a fun hour here with Bobby Burns of Earth, Wind & Fire and Macy Gray. And I mean, you toured with musicals. You recorded with all kinds of, all the bios up in the description. So you've played with a lot of folks in your career so far. It's great to have you here. If you missed part of this, if you're just joining us now, this will be posted on Facebook, so you can watch the whole thing in its entirety. It'll also be up on YouTube, so if you know folks that aren't on social media, it'll be on YouTube so they can watch it from the comfort of their own home on their Apple TV or whatnot. And then what else? Point of business. Yeah, so let's get to the last question here. This one comes from Richie. And Eric, that's what I wanted to say. Eric, we did talk about equipment before, so if you rewind, we can talk about, Bobby talked about what he's been playing on. So the last question comes from Richie, and it is about lead pipe buzzing, which we talked about a little bit. But I wonder, Bobby, if you would talk about it a little bit more, because he tried doing it, but it tends to be messing his chops up. So maybe he might be doing it wrong, or what should he be looking out for when he's buzzing the lead pipe?
Well, is he is he trying to play a lot of different notes on it, or is he just I play what I do is I play it right where it lines up at. I'll play, and I'll do this. I'll rest as much as I play. So I'm not trying to play a tune on it. You just play this where it lies fundamentally for you when you pick it up. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll play the lower partial down an octave of it, but you don't want to overdo it. But I've done it for 4 or 5 minutes, easy. You just play to your little bit out of air, rest as much as you play, and do it again, do it over and over. It's not, you don't have to be perfect. It's just a way of getting your face warm, getting your chops activated, your air moving. Other than that, it's not. Don't make a big deal out of it. So I'm kind of curious how is he being? What is the hang up for him?
Yeah, and that's probably something like learning the stamp method, or I mean, it's one of those things where if you're sitting in the room now, do you do Skype lessons, Bobby? Are you available for?
I have, yes.
So I mean, that might be something, Richie, you might want to.
Because it's sort of hard to address exactly what's going on with him just from I had to almost hear him or see what's going on, with him.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's the lead pipe buzzing is a whole different thing, and just like bending notes in the stamp routine or something, if you can see someone do it, or if you can diagnose it in the room, then that's really the only way. So, reach out, Richie, maybe get a lesson with Bobby or one of the other Adam students. I'm sure a lot of them do Skype lessons. So, and check out the William Adam Virtual Fest coming up pretty soon in a few weeks. Bobby, this has been so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
It's been an honor to have you on here. Because people still checking in. Gary Greenfelder says great session. Rich Fanning says hi, Bobby. So
Fanning.
lot of fans on here. And if you want, this will be on Facebook, so you can check in on the comments. A lot of folks saying hi and seeing they saw your show. So a lot of love. Thank you so much for the inspiration, Bobby, and look forward to seeing what you have coming up next.
All right, John. Thank you so much, and thanks. Hello, everybody, and thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you. All right, and thank you guys. There we go. I had technology stuff. I'm still learning. Thank you guys for watching, for wherever you are from around the world. It's been so much fun. What a great way to spend the week, spend the hour here talking trumpet and all kinds of Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff. I mean, we were listening to it this morning at the shop before I came out here. So hopefully you're finding yourself inspired wherever you are around the world. Join us next week. We will have Christopher Still. Chris is a second trumpet player in the Los Angeles Philharmonic. He's been featured twice on our podcast. Once kind of the standard podcast, biographical stuff, how he got into the Phil, things like that. And then he was just featured recently with his Honesty Pill program because, I mean, it's like we've mentioned, difficult times. People are trying to figure out what to do as musicians with no place to play. And Chris has really put a wonderful program together with his Honesty Pill program, in terms of both practicing, staying inspired, but then also how to run a business. If you're a musician, how do you start, form a website? How do you do a logo? How do you become an entrepreneur, which is we all are as musicians to begin with, but especially with what's going on nowadays, it's great inspiration and great information. So join me next week, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Christopher Still will be on here to answer your questions. We have some more great guests coming up. I've teased this a few times, some great names that I can't announce yet. So be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those places down below, so you don't miss out on any of these. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe, be healthy wherever you are. And as Bobby Byrne said, let's go out and practice them, shall we? Bye-bye.